Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today we're going to spend a little bit of time here in the cottage garden, and we are going to go ahead and prune some of our panicle hydrangeas. Now, for those of you that may be new to Gardening with Creekside, we are North Carolina. We are Zone 7B, and we have been in this space many times. This cottage garden is one of my favorite gardens because it just has an explosion of color from spring all the way through fall. Just tons of daylilies and lovely perennials and penstemons and guaras and baptisia, lots and lots of fun things. And then of course I always add in pops of annuals to give me some different colors and textures and whatever I may be looking for in that growing season. This is a very high visibility area. It's right off of our driveway. We pass this multiple times a day, and it has come to be the time where we're going to do some of the final cleanup on this area. We've been in here several times already this fall, but now that it is the end of the year, Christmas has come and gone, New Year's is just right around the corner. It is crazy to think of. We've had multiple freezes. We too just went through the Arctic blast like everybody else. We had nights of 7 degrees, 11, 14, like that. So really cold for North Carolina. And now I'm just ready to come spend some time in here and get everything cleaned up, tidied up, and just kind of put to bed for the winter. So let me show you what we're going to do first, and then I'm going to kind of go through and do some things, but I want to show you, kind of give you an overview of this space. So this area really kind of is 3 gardens. We have the cottage garden, which is really 2 beds down here below. It is nice, and like I said, tons of perennials in here. You can see that the daylilies, those are all of the kind of the grayish brown clumps here. Those need to be cleaned up. At this point of the season, super easy. We literally just go in and pull it and it comes right away. I have a butterfly bush in here. Butterfly bushes definitely need to be pruned, but not this time of year. You want to wait until you start to see some foliage come in the springtime, and then you can prune it back. I've got my guara here behind the rock. All that needs to be pruned back. More daylilies. My midnight masquerade. I believe this is midnight masquerade. This might actually be blackbeard. This is actually, the blackbeard penstemon. You see all those stalks? They just need to be cut back, and then all the green foliage will stay here. So I'll have a little bit of structure. You can see that I do have drip irrigation running through this bed. I know that I want to revisit exactly where this is placed, so we will do that at another time, not right now. The bed is frozen, at least like the surface of the bed is frozen. But I think like this weekend, it's like supposed to be like 70 or something. I mean, that's the crazy thing about North Carolina. So once this ground, the top layer, is not frozen anymore, then I'm going to come back here, pull up all the drip and make sure that it is laid where I want to have it. Then we're going to come back in through here and top dress with a lovely compost blend to give this bed some good food. So that's what's going to kind of happen over here. I am going to go ahead and prune back the lantana. So if you've been with me before, you know that this is the Miss Huff lantana. It's one of the perennials, one of the few perennial lantanas for us here in North Carolina. It is massive. It is taking up at least half of this bed. I know Jerry and I are going to try to relocate it, but for now I'm just going to go ahead and prune it back. Prune it all the way to the ground. That way I can get in here and get things cleaned up. I have some irises down here beside the butterfly house. We're going to get those just pruned up, cleaned up. The Nephophia, or the red hot pokers, maybe you know them as that, they're going to be more like a little semi-evergreen. This is not the time I'm going to prune it. I will wait until we're coming out of winter and going into spring. Then I will prune it, and that way when the new flush of foliage comes out, it'll be nice and pretty. I kind of treat it like a perennial grass, that end of winter, going into spring, before you get new growth, then I clean it up, trim it up, and all the green new flush comes out, and it's really, really pretty. Again, this bed does have tons of daylilies in it, and you can see, just those brown spots there. Get it all cleaned up, make it look nice. Then we are going to head up here to Hydrangea Hill, as I have dubbed it, because we have 2 rows of panicle hydrangeas. Down here on the lower end, these are all little lime hydrangeas, and they are living their best life. Little limes will be between 3 to 5 feet tall, and this one, especially here right there, is just massive and huge. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to show you exactly how you prune panicle hydrangeas. We're going to do the little limes, and then up here on the top row we have firelights. Firelights are gorgeous, beautiful white to a pink. They're one of the few panicles that will actually turn for us. I have got 5 of those across there. Again, we will prune them in the same way as the little limes, but since they bloom on new growth, you have to prune them, and you want to prune them in a certain way. That way they don't have floppy stems. I think you can see how nice and tight and upright both my little limes and my firelights are. There's no floppage. They are nice and tight, upright, good sturdy stems, and it's a really simple trick on how to prune them, but so many people don't know, and they prune them the wrong way, and then they get really floppy stems and they get really frustrated, which is completely understandable. But if you know this one little trick to pruning your panicle hydrangeas, you're not going to get floppy stems. You're going to get gorgeous, nice, strong, upright stems, and your blooms are not going to flop. So really, we're just going to kind of spend some time here in the garden getting things cleaned up, make it look a little neater, a little tidier. Like I said, this is right off of our driveway. I will show you. So we have, of course, the wood line going down, and then I think you can see the berm way out there, and the house and the driveway, and then of course there is the garage. So like I said, high visibility area right here for sure. So we want to get this space nice and cleaned up. Brenna is having the absolute most fun. She loves this cold weather. If you have what I call like a cold weather dog, then the colder the better for sure. Those mornings that were 7 degrees, 14 degrees, man, that girl was like out of her mind. She was running in the creek and just having the absolute, right now she's playing with a rock, having the absolute best time. So yeah, the colder the better it is for this German Shepherd for sure. It's those hot days in July and August that, bless her heart, she's just like, oh, help me, mama. So she's living her best life, so I'm sure you'll see her running around here today. But without further ado, let's start cleaning up the cottage garden, and then we're going to do the panicles. So for today, I'm going to start with the hardest thing first, and that is going to be pruning back this lantana. Certainly is not hard whatsoever. I am going to be using these are electric steel trimmers Jerry got for me a couple of years ago. I love it because it's easy to crank. You don't have to worry about gasoline and all this other stuff. Super, super easy. Just make sure your battery is charged, and then there you go. Now, this lantana I'm going to cut all the way down to the ground. I mean, just bare nubs. Because it is a perennial, not a shrub, it comes back with brand new growth in the spring. Typically, I always say, if you want to make sure your lantana stays and comes back year after year, don't do what I'm getting ready to do, because they have hollow stems. And when you cut them and you expose that hollow stem, the water could get down in there and rot and kill the plant. So for years and years, I did not prune this until I started to see some new growth at the bottom, like in the spring. Then I would trim it all the way down to the ground. Last year though, because it's such a big, huge beast, I just couldn't handle it, and I was like, I'm gonna trim it. If it dies, oh well, but I just can't handle looking at all these sticks all winter. it did great. Maybe it's because it was super established, I don't know. But I'm back at that point again this year. I'm ready to get rid of my sticks. Like I said, Jerry and I are going to try to relocate it come springtime. But for now, we're just going to take the hedge trimmers and cut them completely to the ground. If you don't have hedge trimmers, not a problem whatsoever. Get your good, clippers, your good pruners, and just go in there and cut them. So without further ado, we're going to get to pruning. All right, so I have got the lantana pruned back, and like I said, it's the hardest job of the day just because it's so big and so massive and has so much debris. Clearly, I wore the wrong sweater out here today because it is just an absolute magnet for all of the little stems and everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that I'm going to probably be a hot mess today while we're doing this because clearly this is a debris magnet. So wrong choice on that, but it is nice and warm, so there you go. So what I'm going to do is, because of all this debris from the lantana, you have all these big sticks, and so we've had, of course, tons of wind. We've got lots and lots of hardwood trees here. So all through the fall, when the leaves were falling, this lantana was basically like this big, huge catch basin for all of those leaves. I need to get those out, and then of course there's the leaves from the lantana itself. The lantana, as it was growing, some of those limbs were really low and starting to root. I don't want that because I need this lantana out of here later on. So what I'm going to do is actually probably get the blower and blow this initially out so I can actually find those stems that are down there, and then really get this cleaned up. And then the rest of the bed is going to go really pretty fast because those daylilies are going to be super easy to get all that cleaned up. Really easy. Like I said, this is the hardest one. Get all these leaves and debris out of here, see what I'm working with, and then get everybody else taken care of. So now that I've got the leaves blown out from the lantana, I think you can see what I'm talking about. With all those leaves there, I could not see like this limb. And you can see where it's, starting to root, and I don't want that because I need this lantana out of here. Now, if this lantana were in a big open area, then I would just let it go and let it spread, because heaven knows this is a gorgeous lantana, massive pollinator attractor, butterflies, hummingbirds, all the good things you want in your garden love this plant. It was, I guess, my mistake of planting it here, and it really, really loves this spot. Clearly it's going to take over if I don't get it out of here come in the spring. So we're going to get all these little limbs cleaned up. I'm just going to take my pruners and come in and just trim them as far back. But you can see, I've got them everywhere, going back here, I've got them over here, and that's why getting those leaves out, then I can really see what I am working with. So we're going to get the lantana all cleaned up, pruned back, and then I'll go ahead and start cleaning up all the rest of the perennials. Super easy, just pulling back that dead foliage, and that's it. Okay, my friends, so I've got the cottage garden all cleaned up. All the perennials are cut back, trimmed back. The daylilies are all cleaned up. I got Miss Huff pruned, got all her debris put away. I tell you, I'm gonna be finding Miss Huff on me all day long. I got little twigs everywhere. Let me just show you, of course, what it looks like now that it's done. I know that I said, oh, don't trim your Nephofia till, you know, the end of winter going into spring. Well, oh my word, it turned out to be such a beast, and there was all sorts of debris up underneath there. So I went ahead and just gave it a little trim, gave it a little haircut, and you can see how much neater and tidier the bed looks. Again, I like to add a compost mixture to my flower beds at least once a year. So this is the perfect time of year to do it. Again, the top of our ground is frozen right now because we've had such cold temperatures. Once I start to get a little bit of a thaw, which will just be in a couple of days, I'm gonna lift up the drip irrigation so I can see exactly where it is, rearrange it if I need to, and then come in here and top dress it with our compost blend that we have gotten and just love. It's a big, huge bulk order that we got. It's mushroom compost, different kinds of compost, and then aged pine bark fines. Been using it as a top dress, as a mulch. Does great. It's a great way to amend your soil, so we will be doing that very, very shortly. Now what we're going to do is turn our attention to the hydrangeas behind us. I'm going to show you the trick of pruning your panicle hydrangeas so they don't get floppy. All right, my friends, so let's talk about panicle hydrangeas and the keys to success to making them nice and strong and sturdy and not floppy. Panicle hydrangeas bloom on new growth. That means the more you prune them, the more growth they're going to put on, the more flowers they're going to put on. At a minimum, you need to prune them once a year. Depending on where you live in the country and what your climate is, you can either prune them in the fall or anytime during the winter. Definitely you want to prune them before they really flush out with new leaves. The reason I say it depends on where you live. So I have always said for us, you can prune them in the winter. Really a good time is end of winter going into spring. For us, that's like mid-February, right? So you're getting ahead of the game. Valentine's Day is a great way to remember it. You get flowers for Valentine's Day. Prune your new growth blooming shrubs around Valentine's Day. However, I have friends that live in much colder climates. They get a lot of snow. Have friends in Michigan, tons and tons and tons and tons of snow. They go ahead and prune their panicle hydrangeas in late fall because of the snow load, because these panicles have a nice big canopy to them, and if there's tons of snow, it could snap the stems and prune the plant in the wrong spot. So they go ahead and prune it where they want to, then it's just left with sticks in the wintertime, and the snow just goes through it or piles up around it and does not break the branches. Now, because they bloom on new growth, you want to have nice, strong, sturdy stems to hold up all these beautiful blooms. Therefore, never ever cut your panicle hydrangeas back by more than 1/3 to 1/4 of your plant. How do you determine what 1/3 or 1/4 is? Well, you can be very scientific and actually get your tape measure from the ground to the top, divide that by 3. That tells you how many inches you can take off. I'm not that scientific. I just look at it and I say, okay, well, this is about the height of the plant. Half of that would be here. So I go up a little bit and then I'm going to prune right there. This is when I'm going to take off of the whole plant and make it look neat and tidy. Because we do this year after year, I got a stick in there. We do this year after year, I can see where I cut last year. So instead of saying, like, actually having to like visibly look at it, I can just find my cuts from last year and then cut right above that. That is going to help me know, okay, this was last year's cut. Everything below that has never been cut before. So every year, those stems get really strong and stiff. As the wind blows, it moves the plant around. They really get strong and sturdy, and that is what you want. So you're coming in here and you're pruning it. Are they going to be sticks? Yes, they're going to be sticks. Is that going to be okay? Yes, that's going to be okay, because guess what? Come next summer, I am going to have massive amounts of absolutely gorgeous blooms. Another thing that you want to prune out while you're in here is either really thin, spindly stems or anything that's dead. You know it's dead because when you cut it, it has a different sound to it. It'll sound more hollow, I guess is the best way to describe it. And also, you're not going to have, it's not going to be green inside. I'll see if I can show it to you on this camera. If not, I'll take a picture of it. But inside of that stem, it is actually white and it is green. So that means it is alive. If I can find a dead stem, I will show you what it looks like. But basically, it's just going to be brown. It's not going to have any kind of green color to it. And it's going to, you know, just look like a dead stick. And so, of course, you want to cut those back. What I tell people is just to, if you find a dead stem in there, just keep cutting it back until you find green. And then once you find green, you know that that part's alive and all is well. So you're just going to come through here, rinse, repeat, do the exact same thing, and clean up your plant. It will be very, very happy. It is going to give you massive amounts of blooms. Now here in the South, what I'm going to try this year is because my panicles, a lot of them, other than my firelights, will not give me really pretty, like those pink colors. So what I'm going to do this year is actually come in when they are blooming, and I'm going to cut a lot of my blooms off. Now, am I going to throw them away? Absolutely not. I'm going to use them in, vases. I'll give them away to friends. We're going to enjoy those flowers. But by pruning it, cutting off those blooms, I am going to encourage new growth. And more than likely, I will have more than enough time to have a whole fresh set of blooms come late summer, early fall. So that is going to be a trick that I am going to try this year. Be much more intentional of trimming, using my really pretty blooms in the late summer. Now, in order to do that, for me, time-wise, is going to be about probably end of July, early August. I will come in here and make sure that I am, using those flowers. Am I going to do it as severe as I'm doing right now? No, I'm not. I'm just going to come in and use some of those flowers. That way I will have new growth on there, and it'll be really pretty, nice new flush set of flowers. Like I said, late summer, early fall. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, I'm almost done with this one. If you wanted to use pruners, you could. I like to be a little bit more precise on my hydrangeas. That's just my personal preference. But if you have a ton of them, or your husband got a new set of trimmers and he wants to do them for you, let him do it, right? So you could totally use the pruners. I'm just choosing to come through here with my Felcos. These are number 2s. Love these. If you're interested in Felcos, you can check out our video description, and I have a 10% off coupon that you can use. So 1 down, 9 to go, I think. So we're just going to get these done. Does not take long at all. I'm in the full sun. I can take off my coat, get some of this wonderful sunshine, and enjoy it. And then we'll be done for our projects for today. Okay friends, today's project is all complete. We have got the cottage garden cleaned up, and look back there. Does that not just look so much nicer, neat and tidy? I tell you, the older I get, the more I like things neat and tidy. So trimming back those little limes and those firelights really just tidied up that whole area. and I don't have to worry about them. There's nothing that I have to do to these babies until that February-ish time that I was talking about, and I will come back and I will give them a slow release fertilizer. Rose tone is fantastic for them because they are a woody flowering shrub. So when you have those kinds of plants, it is great to use the rose tone. It's kind of crazy to think that hydrangeas and roses have the same fertilizer needs, but they do. So coming down the hill to give you just a whole perspective of the entire area, everything just looks so much neater, so much just tidy, and makes me very, very happy. I know what does not look neat and tidy are my lavenders right there, but this is the wrong time to prune them. So that end of winter, that February-ish time for me, is when I will come in and cut them to the ground, and they will do really well. So will the clematis that I have growing on the little obelisk right there. That will also be pruned at that late winter, early springtime. But everything, again, neat, tidy. Is it perfect? No. Is there anything such thing as perfect? No. Do I strive for perfection? No. Do I strive to make things the best that I can do? Absolutely. So give yourself some grace in the garden. Yes, there are probably some weeds in there that need to be taken care of. It's, like I said, it's not magazine worthy whatsoever right now, but that's all right. Makes me happy. My garden is happy. And that is all that matters right now. Right, folks? So neat and tidy. If you can get out there in your garden, if you're not buried in snow, I know so many of you are completely buried in snow. If you are buried in snow, this is a great time to dream and plan for next year's gardens. Get on the website, magazines, look for inspiration, Pinterest, get lots and lots of ideas while you're nice and warm inside. But if you're like me, you can get out in your garden, do it. It will make you feel so much better. As always, thanks so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a great day. See you in the next video. Bye, friends.